I want to fall in love with Magic the Gathering again. I really do. It was the game that made me fall in love with TCGs, and the chances are, dear viewer, that the same is true for you. I have such fond memories of showing up every week for Friday Night Magic at my local store and having the time of my life. Those early days I spent happily lost in the plains of Ravnica, Dominaria, Ixalan, and countless more helped me discover my tastes, my character in a game with seemingly boundless mechanical depths and myriad wonderful worlds to explore. Vampire conquistadors, Aztec dinosaurs, and eldritch monsters from the space between worlds. Undercity liches born of rot and desperation, corrupt clergy who sacrificed their own like worthless pawns. Every new set of Magic was an agonizing wait away for an audience who were gagging for more by the time each set released. And it wasn't just our bustling standard format that was alight with our passions. Every opportunity for a pre-release, draft or sealed event, and other formats came as an oasis to our parched tongues, every shuffle of the deck bringing with it new friendships and rivalries. I had never connected so deeply with a hobby before as I had with TCGs, thanks in no small part to Magic the Gathering. And many of the friends I made in those days are dear to me even now. That is how special it was. Oh, how things changed. What went wrong? It began, I feel, with the product lines. Things were simple for a long time. Each set had a draft booster box and maybe some starter decks for newcomers. Commander products came out once in a blue moon and were a big deal when they did so. Throne of Eldraine from late 2019, a blessing though that set was, seemed to be the beginning of the end. It introduced beautiful showcase alternate art cards, gorgeous fairy tale themed additions to a game with a long history of simplicity. I heard little complaint, they were stunning, but with them came the first proper iteration of collector boosters, vastly expensive packs that were full of foils and special rare art treatments of cards. No one had much of an issue with alternate art cards as a concept, but they really should have just been rarer inclusions in the normal set. Wizards couldn't resist finding new ways to squeeze us. They were poor value for such high costs, and only got more expensive with each new set. Regular versions of cards became mostly worthless, meaning that only the vastly overpriced premium product had the real second-hand and collector's value. Each set introduced new art themes and gimmicks to market these collector boxes, many of which felt nothing like Magic. The first cracks in its identity had begun to show. Shortly afterwards came Wizards' next genius money-making ploy, Secret Lairs, exclusive bundles of alternate art cards with different themes, art styles and crossovers. They preyed upon everyone's fear of missing out and sold tons of them. But then they made more and more and more of them at a maddening pace, utilizing every possible idea and crossover they could think of. It felt like there was a new, exclusive, hyped up, limited edition, mega super secret lair every week. And every week the sanctity of Magic and its identity was ground slowly to dust.
New secret lair alert! New secret lair alert! New secret lair alert!
Between all the products and special cards now, I look at the state of the game and I can't help but to think that if every card is so special, then none of them are, really. 20 different printings of the same card with random, mismatched art styles and themes. all identity was gone. They still command different price tags, courtesy of the people still invested in the game, but the visual identity, the consistency, and the spirit are all gone. Or so it seemed. And then came Universes Beyond. It began with a promise that they would be kept worlds apart from the in-universe sets. The Warhammer 40,000 commander decks were genuinely cool and well designed, if not frightfully expensive. Many knew from the off what was coming, but the rest of us were cautiously optimistic about the novelty of crossovers in Magic the Gathering. In no time at all, these progressed to complete sets, and the divide between in and out of universe sets was just shattered. Our worst nightmares came true. SpongeBob SquarePants using the Kamehameha technique to destroy Gandalf, who had been swinging the Buster Sword at Spider-Man, and in every format no less. Their promise to keep Magic separate from Universes Beyond was broken in almost no time at all. I honestly hated what it was becoming, and the worst part was that there is an intellectual property to make hypocrites out of all of us. For me, it was Final Fantasy that made me crumble. For others, Lord of the Rings. But my view of it all didn't change just because I spent fortunes on a crossover with an IP that was precious to me. It was getting out of hand. The sets were coming hot and fast, with nary a moment to enjoy each offering before the next would be forced down our throats. More and more money was being demanded of us for a product rapidly declining in quality. More products, more sets, more secret layers, more at blistering speed. And the worst, most insulting part of it all was that the few in-universe sets were sometimes worse than the crossover ones. Beloved locations reduced to jokes. Wacky races on Amonkhet, murder mystery nonsense on Ravnica, and classic characters dressed as cowboys in spaghetti westerns. I was fortunate, at least, to have lost interest well before then. I can't imagine what it was like trying to play Standard when half of the cards were gag set rubbish fit for the Un-series and the other half was all the crossover content. I don't regret leaving Magic when I did. Standard was, for many years, the premier format for Magic. It was where the competition was. It was what gathered people together at their local stores to play the game and to make friends. It was the beating heart of the game. There were prizes and promos for getting stuck in, and many more intangible incentives on top. As time passed, a lot changed. When the online client, Magic Arena, hit the mainstream, it drew a lot of people away from paper play. Paper Magic is more expensive and more effort, especially with rotations, and with the number of standard legal sets they put out now, the game is extremely expensive to keep up with. For people who just wanted to grind matches one after the other from the ease of their couch, Arena provided a cheaper and more convenient way to play, and so a portion of the players vanished. Many people came to their LGS to play Magic as social players. They enjoyed the company, the friendships, and the witty banter. They didn't want to spend as much money on the game as most of the other players. And then, Commander blew up big time and became the main social format of the game. Eternal cards without rotation made for better value fun, and you needn't come to the store. Just gather a few friends together in your kitchen and have a blast. Another portion of the players vanished. And then there were the TCG hobbyists and moderates like my friends and I. We played the game often and in different formats. We had reasonable collections, and we showed up to most of the events that came along for the game. But what we loved were TCGs, not just MTG. So when the game had become a shadow of its former self, many of us simply moved on to greener pastures. And just like that, another portion of the player base had disappeared. Of those who remained, I'm of the opinion that many of them were people for whom magic had become more than just a hobby. It had become a part of their persona. I often overheard conversations at the store like, "I know the game's rubbish now, but I've spent too much time and money, I can't give it up now." And it broke my heart. Such fierce loyalty for so many years, rewarded only with a sort of gluttonous mediocrity. It just wasn't good enough. For those who remained, many of them found themselves moving into other formats, like Pioneer and Modern and things like that. But the standard format, which should have always been the beating heart of the game, had been abandoned. The men in suits had chosen the collectors and left the players by the wayside. The truth is, I could whinge about Magic the Gathering all day long. I could talk about how the stories used to be written and expressed through the cards. I could talk about the old block system and how it helped us become attached to the worlds and the characters. But did I make this video just to rant all day about Magic? No. Well, maybe a little bit, but mostly no. I've made this video because there's still a glimmer of hope shimmering beneath the surface. I still play Commander every week with the boys. I still enjoy it, even if I have to roll my eyes at some of the new stuff. Since it all went to pot and the mass exodus began, Wizards somehow still managed to release a couple of glorious gems. Bloomburrow and Lorwyn Eclipse whispered sweet nothings into my ear, coaxing me back into Magic's embrace. They were beautifully evoked glimpses into what Magic should be, what it always was. Gorgeous, traditional fantasy artwork and themes, fantastic card designs, a fan favourite setting treated with respect. I had felt temptation for the first time in so long to dive back in. Boxes of adorable woodland creatures winked at me from the shelves. Lorwyn had me sorely tempted to try it out again, and with Secrets of Strixhaven, I finally attended my first pre-release since the original Strixhaven. The events were fully booked, and many of the players hadn't played since almost the exact same time as I had, and all of us were wary, tentatively taking our first steps back into the game when it looked like it was recovering. And most importantly, we all had a wonderful time. The set was genuinely excellent. It gave us hope. Hope that Magic is not done yet. It can still climb back from the precipice. I'm not going to celebrate just yet, but these sets stand as proof that Wizards can still do it. They have the talent they need. They have the imagination, but they don't have the inclination. They're so close and yet so far from restoring Magic the Gathering to glory. I genuinely believe that if Wizards got their act together, the players would come swarming back in their droves, and I'd be among them. But there's so much to be done, and so many different ways that they could do it. After harping on so negatively for so long in this video, I would be remiss not to make some constructive suggestions of my own. So here's Salem Gamora's wishlist for the future of Magic the Gathering. I believe that the cat is out of the bag with Universes Beyond. And you know what? Maybe that's fine. Maybe crossovers aren't the worst thing in the world, but they need to be handled completely differently. They should be an occasional treat, not a constant threat. And restore the division between in and out of universe sets. Keep them separate. Take all that energy and effort from making masses of sets that almost no one likes or cares about, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and channel it into only one or two carefully curated maximum effort sets with all the bells and whistles. Do that, focus that effort and creativity, and you won't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel for every conceivable crossover multiple times per year. If I have my fantasy immersion torn asunder by further visits to blasted New York City, I will pull my hair out. What little is left of it, anyway. Restore the sanctity of in-universe sets. Return to Magic's roots with classical fantasy. Tell us stories through the cards like you used to, of the planeswalkers and the varied worlds they visit, of the struggles they endure and the tragedies that befall them. No stupid gag sets, save that for the series. 80% of Magic sets should be Magic. No one had a problem with the odd, in-between set for different formats, but make those twice as special and twice as sparse as well. In fact, apply this concept to Secret Lairs too. They stopped being special the moment they started being mass-produced slop. Stop hiking prices willy-nilly. If you want ultra-premium products like collector boosters, fine. Those will never go away again, I get it. But standardize the price and stop making them so outrageous. Print more of them. I can understand why a crossover licensed product might be a bit more expensive, but what makes the cardboard inside a Modern Horizons set worth multiple times as much as any other set? It doesn't make sense to me. Stop inflating the prices, please. At the very least, try to do something to meet demand, because this stuff is being bought up like crazy and it's getting harder and more expensive to get. I mean, just look at the resellers for things like Final Fantasy or Lord of the Rings. It is astronomical. Modern Commander deck precons are genuinely fantastic now. They're well designed and fun to play, and some even have good value. But even those, I notice, are giving less. Collector booster samples are gone, and in their place are just masses of cardboard junk that no one wants or uses. My point is that we seem to be paying more and more to receive less and less. So I'd like to see an improvement in the value for money, and I'd like you guys to please stop cutting corners just to improve the bottom line. It's not really fair on us. A primary concern of mine is that almost no one plays formats other than Commander in my and all adjacent circles. I want to see a reinvestment in encouraging in-store play again instead of kitchen counter Commander. Resuscitate Friday Night Magic, revitalise Standard with real Magic sets again, and reward players and new blood for coming to their LGS to play again. At my local store, Flesh and Blood is running circles around Magic for the number of weekly players. Something I always hear all over the place is that we should all vote with our wallets. That the only language big corporations speak is the language of money. Well, the people are speaking. Secrets of Strixhaven was the most successful pre-release since War of the Spark. Do you think that's just a coincidence? That all of these players who left at the same time are suddenly poking their noses back in again? I don't think it's a coincidence. I think everyone is starting to see what I'm seeing. That there's still hope. That there are still some sets worth picking up. I think that now there are a lot of eyes watching Wizards of the Coast to see what they do now, to see what decisions they make next. I guess my list of wants really boils down to this: a return to tradition for Magic the Gathering. We can still have all the new ideas and the new concepts, but they need to be tempered with reason, not with greed. Follow the players, not just the money, and this game could still climb to even greater heights than it ever did before. I genuinely believe that. All of the shareholders are just going to be worried about short-term gain. But convince them yourselves that there's a bigger picture here, a longer game to prosperity that we could all be playing, and one that makes everyone much happier, including the investors. Magic the Gathering is so special for so many people, and I believe in my heart of hearts that it can still claw its way back from the precipice. It's not dead, it never will be, but it could be so much more. The TCG market is bigger than it has ever been, and there are competitors crawling out from under the woodwork all the time. At its core, Magic is more than salvageable. It's irreplaceable. They just need the will and the leadership to restore their former glory. And I hope they find it, because I really want to fall in love with Magic the Gathering again. I'm sorry for the long and poorly written rant, but this is just something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to get all of my personal feelings and opinions out there because I know a lot of people agree with me, although not everyone. I'd love to hear what you think about the state of Magic and what they could do for the future as well, so have a chat with me in the comments and let me know what you think. If you've got any interest in TCGs in general, please do consider subscribing to my channel because that is my main focus and I'd love to have you on board. Thank you so much for watching and I wish you the very best. Much love, goodbye.